Welcome to the 1905 podcast. Joe and I have been going to Stamford Bridge for over 30 years. For the past 3 years, we've been exchanging voice notes on everything from the highs in Porto to the lows of Potter. Each week, this podcast will take you inside our unfiltered thoughts on all things Chelsea, sharing our view from Gate 13 of the Matthew Harding stand. Let's hit the notes. The final whistle has literally just blown. Chelsea 4, Real Betis 1. Oh wow, that felt very different, didn't it, half an hour ago? I'm watching in a bar in Paris at Euro Disney. Very weird environment to be watching it in. It's one of those games when you're watching on a big screen with no commentary, and the only really other people watching it seemed to be 2 Real Betis fans. So as I walked in, they were going pretty wild when they scored. And to be honest, an hour into that game, I thought they were going to be having the night of their lives here in Disneyland, because Chelsea were huffing and puffing, weren't we? And it's mad. You'll look back at that, the records will show a 4-1 win for Chelsea and a bit of a battering, and looks very, very comfortable. And to be fair, once we equalised, we were brilliant. But God, I was really, really worried. We had a call, Joe and I, at half time, and we're worried is the word, I think. I think we were thinking the team selection wasn't quite right. It was interesting that almost the second that he kind of went to the team we'd have liked to have seen, when Reece obviously came in at half time and then Cole came in, it almost changed the game instantaneously, and Chelsea scored not long after. You know, Mourinho, he quoted Mourinho in the build-up saying that finals are not to be played, finals are to be won. And I think that was a really good, example of that, because Gusto was terrible in the first half, wasn't he? I'm not saying that he is not a good player, but, he wasn't there. Chalobah and Badiashile were fine, but they've only played 3 games together. Again, it sends the wrong message out in my mind, but we turned it around, and wow, what a last half an hour. Is there a more appropriate player to have scored the last goal of our season, if you want to call it that, because we've got the World Club Cup to come, than that man Caicedo? He was brilliant. Palmer, who I said to you, Joe, shows what I know, saying I was a bit worried about him. Is he on it? Does he need a holiday? 2 bits of absolute class to make great goals. Enzo Fernandez, talk about a big game player, brilliant header. We needed that. That was the moment we really, really needed. It was a brilliant ball in, great header, and then we didn't look back from that point, did we? Again, another great bit of Palmer magic. I would say a good finish from Jackson. That might be being generous, but it went in, and we'll take it. And then obviously an absolute moment of magic from Jadon Sancho. And all the talk before the game was that obviously about Man United loanee Anthony and what the trouble he would cause us. Well, he was in Cucurella's pocket, and it was the other loanee, Sancho, who created a moment of magic, ironically cutting in as Anthony loves to do and just scoring an absolutely brilliant goal. Will it be his last game in a Chelsea shirt? We'll probably find out in the next few days, but it is what I'm watching the scenes now. The Chelsea players going crazy in front of the fans, absolutely jumping around. And do you know what? Of course, let's be honest, it's the Conference League. Of course, it's not a huge competition. It's not a competition we want to ever be in again. But winning is a habit. Winning trophies can become a habit. We know that at Chelsea better than any other club. And Chelsea have lost far too many finals in recent years. Far too many. In very, very unlucky circumstances, to be fair. Many of them, penalty shootouts to Liverpool ×2. Man City, Liverpool last year, really tight games. Never played badly in finals, just not done enough. Today was about winning it, getting these young guys their first trophy for many of them in club football, and you've only got to look at the Real Betis reactions now, and to be fair, they're in absolute floods of tears. It meant a hell of a lot to them, and it should mean a lot to the Chelsea players as well. Oh, I'd actually say I'm relieved more than anything, but actually the more I'm seeing the scenes, I'm really happy. It's ended up what a brilliant end to the season this run of games has been. We'll talk more about that in the coming days, but to be fair to Maresca, who I've been critical of about certainly a couple of months ago, I was a bit worried about him. He has really shown his worth, and whatever he said to the team at half time, it worked, and he deserves as much credit as anyone there. So yeah, huge game, huge win, big. We're back winning trophies again, and we are officially the only team in the world that can say we have won it all. Over to you, Joe.
Great summary, Chris. A truly fantastic second half performance, making up for that woeful first half display. A team in the second half that we all would have liked to have seen start the game, but as it went on and we managed to get the equaliser and that second goal, bring in more of the first team on, the natural first team players to win the game and solidify our third and fourth goals was brilliant. And yeah, that man Cole Palmer doing his absolute best to put himself on the European stage on the biggest occasions once again, just showing why you cannot take him out of the team. I know there were calls for him to maybe be rested or taken out for his own sanity at times the second half of the season just gone, but these are the reasons why. And just sublime piece of skill and cross for Enzo's first goal and Chelsea's equaliser, and then for the second, brilliantly holding up the Betis left back and just rolling him like he's not even there, and a superb cross of Jackson to make it 2-1. Just a guy that exudes everything about us that's any good, to be quite frank. He has everything in abundance. A really fantastic attitude. Losing that game, I love the way he just sort of decided he was going to take it upon himself to get Chelsea back into the game, and that's exactly what he did. There were some other fantastic performances, of course. I thought Moises Caicedo played well, and Chris Shaw completely right. Has there been a more deserving player there to score a goal on a European stage when he had so many ruled out for offside or a foul on VAR in the last couple of seasons? But yeah, he again steaming through there at the end to make it 4-1. And Jadon Sancho's wonderful goal. I mean, he really took that well. All the similarities of the goal we got against Ipswich a few weeks ago, just cutting in and just whipping that ball Willian style into the far post. The goalkeeper had absolutely no chance. But yeah, Betis obviously made a real game of it. They came with a game plan. They were quite happy for Chelsea to have the ball. I thought sat back, and then when they did take it, they attacked in numbers and they got around the box, and it was a good opening goal from Betis. I thought we defended it very poorly. The Gusto was at fault there, and obviously then he put himself out of position for the striker to put it in on the left-hand side. But it was just a poor first half from Chelsea. They never got going, and yeah, Maresca's spoken about having a bit of a hangover from the Nottingham Forest game at the weekend. I mean, that may be true, but I don't know. I just think it's a final. To me, I just think that they just played poorly. There was too many sentimental picks, in my opinion. I still think the goalkeeper was a bit sentimental. I think you should have gone with Sanchez in the final. Badiashile was another one that I thought, all right, he wasn't horrendous, but, wasn't outstanding. And then, of course, Gusto himself playing, who's not had a great season by his own standards. I think he said that himself in a report by The Athletic this week. And there was too much unfamiliarity there. You need people that play together week in, week out, and the fact they've just beaten Forest at the weekend to secure their fourth position, those players would have been alive and bouncing, and I just felt as though we we were managing minutes, and we were giving picks to people that really had played in that competition a bit more than others, where in actual fact you want to win the game, and you bring those players on in the second half. You don't start with them, and I know it's difficult sometimes to leave people out, but that's part of management, and Maresca's going to have to get used to that as he goes forward, because this Chelsea team are already going to get better and better and better, and he's had more and more difficult decisions to make. And I think overall, to the team he finished with is a team we would like to have started, and we absolutely steamrolled them. The second half performance for me felt a lot less Maresca and a bit more going for it. Now, Maresca himself may have told the players, we're going to play slightly different in the second half, throw caution to the wind, it's a final, you need to get back into it, otherwise you're going to go out or lose. So it was refreshing to see us play a little bit more on the counter-attack, obviously with the Jackson chance that we went clean through 1v1 and had that huge heavy touch, which was just diabolical, quite frankly. And then obviously a bit later on, you had Palmer flinging the ball in here and flinging the ball in there. And it just had a bit more, like I say, I know Maresca, on the whole, doesn't like games to be up and down, but it suited us last night. I think it really did. And obviously the more they were chasing, the bigger holes they were leaving. And that was kind of my point mid-season, was there's more than one way to do things. And I hate to say it, but his possession style in the first half of just slow, quick, slow was just not working. And yeah, Chris is right. We had a phone call at half time yesterday, and it was just so evident that players like Badiashile are so ingrained in the way that Maresca wants them to play that they can't sort of clear the fog. There was a moment in the first half where we could have broke, where 4 players went. Palmer, Jackson, Neto, all went herring up the field. And Badiashile could have played this ball through, but he controlled it, played it inside, 2 yards, they passed it back, 2 yards again. And you can see the frustration in Palmer and Jackson. They're like, well, we've gone, put the ball through. But they are just so, in some cases, metronome in the way they do things. And I think that's fine to be that way, but I also think you need to have a second way of playing or a third way of playing. And I think we saw that in the second half, much more freer, much more taking the ball by the horns. And actually, I thought they grew up last night a little bit in that second half. They really did take the game to Betis, and they didn't have any answers. Once we started getting back into the game, there was nothing that they could do about it. I mentioned Cole Palmer's cross for the first goal, but I didn't mention what a good header it was from Enzo. It was an absolutely brilliant header, right into the corner, on the run. That's a really difficult ball to score from when it's crossed in like that, and you're on the run moving forward. And he nodded it in so beautifully, and yeah, it was really nice to see the players at the end, when it was all said and done, really enjoy the moment. And I know Reece and Cole Palmer did an interview for TNT more or less straight after the game, after the trophy had been presented. And they're so media trained, it's unbelievable. You'd like them just to lose themselves a little bit, just be a little bit daft. But they're men of very few words, aren't they? The pair of them. But it would have been nice for them to have just maybe lost themselves in the moment. But you could see in the celebrations they were very happy to win that. There's no question in my mind. They all were happy to win. And I know it's not the Champions League or even the Europa League, but it's a competition that we had to be in. We could have played a team of kids, gone out in the knockout stages. But you know what? I think that victory will give this team a real lift going into the Club World Cup and going into next season. I feel as though when you win something, Mourinho had this when we won the League Cup in his first season as Chelsea manager, there is an element of get that one off your back. You know what it's like to win. This feeling now, bottle that feeling and go on and achieve more. And I'm not saying that Chelsea are going to win anything next season, but what I would like to see them is have a belief. Because I think there's been times this season where you felt as though they've not believed in themselves. And I just I'm hoping now that they can realise they are a good team. They do play well together. There will be some ingoings, some outgoings, I'm sure, before the Club World Cup, slightly. But this should only breed confidence. And I think from small seeds, big trees can grow. And it'll be nice now for those players to really step up next season and kind of, from the new players that are coming in, explain to them what it's like to be Chelsea, that we're a winning club. You know, we've won all the European trophies now, which is wonderful. And I think instead of starting next season with an attitude of, oh, we're young and we're too inexperienced, they should now have this ability to say, no, we can do this. Yeah, we might be young, but we've got the experience now. We've got, 2 seasons under our belt. We are a superb team with excellent players and a real thirst for winning now. So, yeah, congratulations to Chelsea. They did it for us. They've managed to get us that last European trophy. And, yeah, really, really proud of them, to be honest with you, because, they've really come back and stormed a European final again. So, and we obviously got that record off the back of English clubs losing to Spanish teams in European finals, which has never been done before. So, another record broken by Chelsea. So, well done to all of them.
So my quick question to you, Chris, is: does this season feel like a success? That's question number one. And secondly, how much confidence does it give you as a supporter that they've tasted a European trophy, they've managed to get into the Champions League, and what does next season look like for you? I know it's very early, but do you, as a fan, do you feel as though everything is moving in the right direction? I suppose that's probably a better question. Do you feel as though this is a train on the right track, or do you think there's going to be some bumps along the road with Maresca going forward into next year? Personally, I think the longer they stay together and they work together, I think there will be a cohesion that will only benefit the team. But I'd like to know your thoughts on not where Chelsea are going to finish or anything like that, but do you feel as though by keeping Maresca and staying on this path, we could have sacked him last season at some point, if the potential after certain games, you might have thought this isn't working. How do you feel it's gone, and where do you see it going next season?
Good morning from Disneyland. The sun is shining and Chelsea have won a trophy again, and it feels good, doesn't it? And I'll get straight into it, Joe, and answer your question. I think there's 2 parts to this for me in terms of where Chelsea are as a club. And I think the first part is something we have alluded to, but we were, I think quite rightly, concerned around that really bad spell that we had at the start of the year that went for a good few months, didn't it? It was almost, I guess, sort of from Boxing Day through to March, we were really up and down. The only teams we beat really in that run were, the lowest in the Premier League, and we couldn't win away, and we were poor. And I think the big thing in that run that we all felt was that Chelsea lacked personality, lacked backbone, lacked character. When you went down to Brighton twice in a week, I think it was probably the lowest point of the season for me. And not just because we lost the games, but it was the manner of the performances and the lack of fight and personality that we saw from the group. And I think most of us for the last 18 months have had that feeling, which is this is a really young Chelsea group. Where's the leaders? Where's the mentality to actually show that this is a group that could really build something in the future? And to give the players the credit, and Maresca, I think they've really shown that in this last 6 weeks of the season. There was so much pressure on them to go and perform and win the games, and we have. And not only have we won them, but we've actually, maybe even more importantly, won them with a real grit and personality that I don't think we thought we had. We've talked a little bit about the number of clean sheets that we've got, but that's been pretty amazing, to be fair. The number of 1-0s that we ground out in the run-in, and if that was a title challenging side, you'd be all about this as, your Mourinho and Conte at their best, grinding out key wins when you're not necessarily always playing well, a real sign of champions, isn't it? But for us, it was just as important for us to kind of get top 4. And then I think in a different way, when I look back at the game last night, but the manner of the victory, I think, might actually stand us in really good stead in terms of having to come from behind, because an hour in, we're 1-0 down in a final, a big pressure game that they would have been, destroyed for, really, if we hadn't won, because obviously having gone through this whole competition as very, very strong favourites, to then get to the final and choke from the billionaire bottle jobs chat from Gary Neville last year and all that kind of stuff. And we showed character, and big players stood up. I've talked before about big players winning finals, and I think we really saw these young players stepping up and maybe showing who those big players could be in the future. The obvious ones being, as you said, Joe, Cole Palmer, just 2 bits of absolute genius. Enzo Fernandez, who really is a big player, isn't he? Big game player, stepping up with massive personality. And Reece James, who came on and just dominated that second half and started to look the player that we know Reece can be, and what a captain's display off the bench it was. So I think that personality part of the Chelsea group is, I think it's really encouraging, and as I said, maybe something we didn't necessarily expect at this point from the group. And I think that's probably even better that the final went that way, rather than, if we gone 2-0 up early and sort of cantered to a 4-1 win in ease. I don't know if you learn as much from that, but I think doing what we did with half an hour to go, if we're in finals in the future, which hopefully we will be, knowing that if we go a goal behind, it's fine, we've got this in us, I think will really stand us in good stead. I have to say, just looking back again at the game, an hour in, when they kept showing, those who were watching on TV, they just kept showing the Real Betis fans celebrating, like couldn't quite believe it, they were going to win it. The more it was going on, the more worried I was. I was like, this just feels like it's been the underdogs' year, isn't it, in cup finals with Palace and Newcastle beating Liverpool and, arguably Spurs beating United as well. I mean, so yeah, it was really, really good, and I think the nature of the win was massive. In terms of the other side of the question, in terms of where we are as a club, Maresca is a huge part of this, and I think we want continuity, don't we? We really want some stability at the club in terms of that management structure. We just haven't had it for so long at Chelsea. It would be really great if we could build something with Maresca, and I think, to be fair to him, there are, effectively he's had, if you cut the season in 3, the first half, well, let's say the first third of the season was brilliant. We're second in the league going into Christmas, could have gone, top for a day. Absolutely brilliant, playing brilliant football. The middle part of the season was horrendous, no other word for it. But then the third part of the season's been very good again, in a different way, in a more of a gritty way, like I just said. So, very similar to his season at Leicester last year, but either way, he's come through and delivered what he needed to. And, if you'd said to any of us at the start of the season, Chelsea will finish 4th and win the Conference League, I think 99% of Chelsea fans would have snapped your hand off. So it is a successful season in my mind. I think the problem we might have with Maresca, and it will be the one that rumbles into next season, and it will be very interesting to see how the start of the season goes, is the style of football. Because Chelsea fans just do not like this style of football that he plays, and we saw it under Sarri, the response to it. It was one of the reasons why the first part of the season was so refreshing, is it didn't feel like we were playing that Maresca ball, if you like, at all. It was all guns blazing, scoring 6 at Wolves and 4 at Spurs, and a little bit like he said, like the last half an hour of the game yesterday, it was a little bit more gung-ho, wasn't it? And the end-to-end, that's not how Maresca likes to play. And I think that could be the one problem. I'm just not sure the Chelsea fans will ever warm to his preferred style of play. So it's whether they can find, and he can find, a middle ground that gives him the control he wants, but also gives us, as fans, the entertainment that we want. And you've got people like Esteval Willian coming in, who scored again, by the way, last night and looked bloody good. And obviously you've got Palmer and so many other talented players. He needs to find a balance on the control, but also making sure that we can get those players in the best places and doing the stuff that we want to see them do. So that would be my one sort of wrinkle, I think, in terms of where we go next season and beyond. If Maresca's the right man, really, I think that could be the one kind of warning sign. And I mean, it's early days to talk about projecting ahead too much for next season, but I think it's, even at this stage, it's progression, isn't it? So what does progression look like from here? I think it's being in and around the title race. We finished 15 points behind Liverpool this year. I'm not saying we win the league next year, but can we be close? Can we get closer? Can we be in the conversation in March that Chelsea are outsiders for the league? I think that would be positive. Let's not be going into the Champions League, still fighting for it with a game in the last day of the season. I think that's the natural progression, isn't it, from a league point of view, and then continue to win trophies. So, meaningful run in the Champions League, of course, and then go and win a domestic cup and get the Wembley recent hoodoo off our backs. I think that would be where I'd be looking at this point. I'll throw a question back to you, Joe, if I can. The big talk now is that Chelsea want to get a deal or two done before the World Club Cup so that players coming in can play in it. I think the two prominent positions we're being linked to are obviously centre-back and centre-forward. Centre-back, we missed out on Howson, who went to Real Madrid. So question to you is, do you have a preference there? I know we talked before about Mark Gay being someone we'd both like. Is he the man you'd go for? Are there anyone else that you'd like as our resident centre-back expert? And centre-forward, it now sounds like we have a short list of 4 that Chelsea want, which is Liam Delap, Ekitike from Frankfurt, Sesko and Gyökeres. And I'd like to know your favourite of those candidates. I'll tell you mine I'll tell you mine on both, and you can give me your opinion. I'm going for Mark Gay from a centre-back point of view. 2 reasons. Leadership, I think, is a big part. He's obviously captained Palace to an FA Cup win now, and I think that personality is what we want. He's a good age. He's not too old, not too young. He's 26, I think, and he's Chelsea. And he comes in, and I do like the idea that Cobham players can still come back to the club. I think it sends a good message as well, and I think he's a great player. And then I'll go the striker option, which I think is really tough. I like Delap, and I just like the fact that he's a bit of a bulldog. Gives me Diego Costa vibes, turns 50% balls into his ball, and I think him with Jackson would be a really interesting dynamic. I think they're both a bit different, and I like the idea of him personally. But yeah, I'll fire it back to you, and I'm going to get back to Disneyland and many a queue. That's a big part of the adventure here. But no, it's been really fun, to be fair, with the family, and yeah, springing the step obviously today, which is nice.
I think what struck me the most yesterday was how much the Chelsea players seemed to revel in that victory. I realised in the early rounds, when you're beating like FC Noah, 8-0 or something silly, and there was a few other games like that where they won 4, 5 and 6, and they won at a canter. They could have scored a lot more goals if they played A better team, or B, if they could be bothered to score more goals. But you got the sense last night that it did mean something, and that trophy is a monkey off their back. And I hope that they can, as a group, grow together and actually have that sense of togetherness. You saw the images and the videos of them in the change room last night after the victory, them on the pitch, and even like Levi Colwill and Fofana, swapping shirts. Okay, might be a little bit gimmicky for social media posts and what have you, but they clearly are close. And, Fofana possibly thinks that Colwell has done him proud by, okay, he's missed a large chunk of the season, and Colwell's been that man that's been the stalwart there. So I think that winning trophies together is always a positive thing. And even the likes of Enzo Fernandez, who's won the World Cup, was clearly enjoying himself. And the trophy lifts they all had was nice, and they were sort of, doing that thing. You could sense the youngness in them, if that makes any sense. You could see like they didn't quite know what to do in some cases, but they were also really enjoying themselves. So I think as a supporter and as someone that sort of studies the team a little bit, you look for signs like that to kind of go, yeah, they really enjoyed that last night, and they'll go away to the Club World Cup on a real high. And from what we hear, there are going to be a couple of signings before the World Club Cup itself. So and obviously we'll get onto that in a moment, but I think that the boys deserve an awful amount of credit. When you're a team that is supposed to win something, you'll be surprised how often that doesn't happen. And Chelsea were earmarked to win that trophy from day one. Well, the moment the draw was even announced, Chelsea were going to win that trophy. And, okay, again, on the face of it, they've won these games very easily. And even the final last night, you look at it and you go, it's 4-1. But when you're trailing to a good side at half-time 1-0, you did get that sort of sense that actually maybe this might not be our night. And I said to Chris at half-time yesterday, this is exactly what I didn't want to happen against Nottingham Forest at the weekend. You got the sense that if Forest had been 1-0 up against us, this may have been a different game altogether, and that Champions League spot might have been a lot harder to come by. So Chelsea do still have that in them, where you feel if they go a goal behind, have they got the nous to kind of work out a team and get back into it? But to their credit, they played exceptionally well with, like I said, with two fantastic assists from Cole Palmer to get us going sort of midway through the second half there. But I'm not going to go on about the game as such. I just wanted to sort of put that out there and say that it was really good for them. It was great for my boys as well. They have seen Chelsea win the European Cup in 2021, but neither of them were old enough to remember it properly. And it was good to watch the game with them last night. And I'm sure there was loads of mums and dads across the country and across the world who were watching that as Chelsea fans with their young kids, kind of going, this felt like a really special moment to share that with them. And in a weird way, your kids don't really care if it's the Premier League, the FA Cup, the League Cup, the European Cup. They don't care. They like to see their team win things, and they sort of bring a youthful joy in that. They sort of got me really excited about the game earlier on in the day, and they wanted to get drinks in. They wanted to make sure that I had enough beer in to watch it, and little daft little things, but they knew what it meant to me. They know obviously what a massive Chelsea fan I am, so this must mean a lot to me. And obviously I know that the competition wasn't the strongest, but I think it did give me a sort of different perspective on the game, that actually these things don't matter. If your team wins something, they win something fair and square, well done. And I think we all have to remember that sometimes. I've heard a few people sort of, even Chelsea fans, sort of cuss this competition. They're not bothered about it. And all right, that's fine. But I think once you get there, you want to win a final, that's the end of it. There should be no other conversation in my mind. So it's always nice when your kids bring you back down to earth, I suppose. And when I think back to how bad it's been at times in the last few years for Chelsea, with the sanctions of the club and the ownership changing over, transfer bans, amongst many other things, and obviously managers come in and out of the team, and there didn't seem to be any stability within the club. I think it's just worth remembering that our club could look very, very different. Todd Boehly and Igbali have come into the club, and they have made a lot of changes, and they've done a lot of things that some people like and some people don't. But at the end of the day, they are making a fist of it, and I'm not going to agree with everything they do on and off the field, but they are owners that put their hand in their pocket. They are trying to make this team successful. You don't need to love them. You don't need to like them. But I think that it wasn't always perfect in a Roman either. And I get the sense that they've been getting a really bad sort of rap for the last couple of years. And it takes a little bit of time for these things to play out. And will the sporting directors get every decision right? Maybe not. But I think as time's gone on, I think people are coming around to the fact that players that they weren't sure of are now becoming good players, and the ones that were good players already are now becoming great players. And I think it's not for me to decide how much Chelsea pay for a player or sell a player for. All I can do is back the players that come into the side and into the squad, and then give them a little bit of time to nurture. So a player we're going to talk about in a minute is Liam Delap. He's someone that is £30 million, which is a complete snip in today's money. And if he comes in and doesn't score a goal for 6 weeks, I think the easy route is always to say, oh, he's no good, he's rubbish. But that's how, someone like Nicholas Jackson may have started out, or Moises Caicedo, oh, he was no good. Enzo, he was no good. And all of a sudden, after sort of 6 months or a year, these players just turn their lives around and they turn their performances around. And before you know it, they're winning European trophies, qualifying for the Champions League, and the next season they may go on to do even more. So I think we just need to sometimes remember that the people that are making the sporting decisions at Chelsea, they're not complete idiots. And I think this season has proved that. It's not always been perfect, I know. But Pep Guardiola's Man City team in their first year, it wasn't very good. In Jurgen Klopp's first season as Liverpool manager, it wasn't very good. And Maresca has done, I would say, probably a lot better than they've done in his first season as Chelsea manager. Whether you like that opinion or not, I think it's a very fair comment, because they did struggle. So let's see what Maresca has up his sleeve for next season. And if the club have a dodgy pre-season, or maybe they don't have a great Club World Cup, let's not jump all over him at the first opportunity to say, I want him out and let's sack him, because, again, you're just repeating the same thing every single season, and it's becoming really quite dull. As to your question, Chris, I think there are a couple of options out there in the forward line and at the back. It doesn't sound as though we're going for midfield players. I think we're fairly well stocked in that department, and also we have a few players coming in as well already in the summer. So I think if we start at the back, we've got Anselmino that's obviously at the club already. He's very young and very raw. I don't expect to see him have a massive impact in the side next year. Who knows? He has made the odd bench for Chelsea this season, and he's been around the first team, obviously training. But from what I hear, he is very, very raw. And we have obviously Sarr coming in from Strasbourg, and obviously he's a centre-back option. Now, again, he's quite young. I think they'll probably want to take a look at him. Whether or not he goes back out on loan or they're going to use him, I'm not too sure. But, again, he's another option that is going to come to the club in the summer. I think the couple of defenders that I really like the look of, I think, say, Mark Guehi from Palace, again, I think he is like kind of the perfect fit. If Chalobah and Colwell are still there next season, and maybe Fofana, I think he comes into that little group of defenders. And I think he'll fit in. Like, I'm sure they're all mates. Like Chalobah and Guehi have already sort of been commenting on each other's Instagram posts and social media posts about the FA Cup win and obviously Chelsea's win last night. I think he walks into that side, a winner, which is great. He's a leader and he's got great leadership. And we've been talking to a couple of Palace fans recently, and we said, how good is he compared to Chalobah? And they said Chalobah's a very good player, but Mark Guehi is just streets ahead of him, like streets ahead. And you think, well, we think Chalobah's a good player, to get him for, let's say 60-ish million. He's in his last year of his contract. We know that. So whether or not a fee would be reduced because of that reason, I'm not too sure. Or whether or not he runs his contract down for 6 months and Chelsea look at him in January. I don't think they'll want to do that. I think they'll want to get a player in for the start of the season. But I think he would be a great option for Chelsea. There's no question. He's been around the club. He grew up at the club. He knows what it takes and what it means for Chelsea fans and Chelsea to win things. So he would be a fantastic option, and I think quite an easy option. But I don't think he's often given enough credit because of the team he plays for. And Palace, who are a very good side at the moment, I think they're still on that tier of team where people go, oh, he's good, but is he that good? He's only playing for Palace. I think if he was to come to Chelsea, I think he would slot straight into the back four, almost become captain overnight. Whether he would, I don't think he would, but he could be. He has that potential. And before you know it, you've got a very, very talented centre-half playing alongside some of his best friends in Chalobah and Levi Colwill. So I think he's a great option. I think that Jarrod Braithwaite from Everton, or Brathwaite, I should say, from Everton, is another great option too. He is a monster of a man. He's a great man marker, beast of a player. And again, I think he's someone that you could get. I know he's been very heavily linked with Man United, but the situation that they're in, you just don't know, do you? What does he want to do? Does he want to stay at Everton? He's contracted till 2027. So I think the talk is that if he's to stay at Everton and sign a new deal, he's going to want a very large amount of money, almost to compensate for how, I hate to say it, but how poor they are. He needs some kind of financial gain out of it. I think he would be prepared to come to a side like Chelsea, who are growing. I think he fits our profile of player perfectly. He's 22 years old. He's English. I think he would, really enjoy working alongside someone like Carwell. You could see them two growing together and actually becoming England's next deadly duo at centre-back for the next 5 or 10 years. You just have that sense that they could really be the envy of the Premiership. To have Colwell and Brathwaite playing alongside each other would be quite fantastic. And if that was to happen and we could land a player like Brathwaite or Gurhey, I think I'd want to see Chalobah hang around. I think you'd get a fairly good price for Badiashile. I think you'd probably get 30, 35 for him. I think, and even Tosin's been linked with someone like Brighton I saw last week for sort of around the £25 million mark. Okay, we paid nothing for him, so he'd be, again, just pure profit, as they call it. So there are options there at centre-back. I think Tosin has probably played himself into staying at the club, but I think if the club were to receive a sizable offer for him, they probably would take it and they'd look to keep some of the younger guys around. But again, experience does count for a lot. As for the forwards, I think there's 3 names that get banded around a lot. There's Sesko, Ekitike and Liam Delap. The goal record, basically, for all of these players is not incredible. Now, obviously, they do offer other things than goals, and they are all quite young. Ekitike, for me, feels a bit overpriced. You're hearing prices around 75, 85 million pounds to get him out of Frankfurt, and he scored 15 goals this season in the German league. He scored 4 last season. He scored 3 the year before that. This isn't someone that I look at and think, absolute world beater. And I think you do have to factor in money because that's the way of the world. And I think if Chelsea could go and get 2 strikers, then you look at Liam Delap and you say, well, he hasn't got many more goals, let's say, than Ekitike, but we've seen him play against us in the Premier League and he's given us the absolute run round. To the point where I don't think I've seen a better centre-forward play against us this year. And I really mean that. He single-handedly battered us at Portman Road earlier in the season. And he only came on a sub in the home game. We played them in a few weeks ago. And he's only in the field maybe 10, 15 minutes. And he still caused us problems. He had a couple of chances that we just about defended. And I've seen him play, obviously, for Ipswich against other sides. And he's done exactly the same thing to them. I think this kid is learning. I think he's a couple of years younger than Ekitike as well. I think he's 20. And I think, in my opinion, at that price, it's almost like free. I mean, it's crazy that a player of his ability who's been really highly thought of around the England setup, like when Southgate was at England, and I think you'll probably see Tuchel as well. If he does well for his next club, whether that's Chelsea or somewhere else, you're going to see him in an England shirt, very, very soon. Harry Kane can't go on forever, and there isn't an abundance of strikers out there in England. And I think Delap kind of fits the mould of Harry Kane a little bit. I'm not saying he is Harry Kane, by the way. Don't get carried away. But I think there is elements and traits of Kane that are in Delap. The fact that he can literally drag a game over the line by himself is a credit to him. Bear in mind, he's so young. And I think when you've seen a player in the Premier League and you know he can handle it, and also he's playing against Chelsea and Man United and City and everybody else, he's literally bullying teams. And I haven't heard a single person, manager, pundit, journalist, ever say a bad word about him. He's a good lad by the sounds of it. Again, English again, which seems to be the way we're going quite a lot with a lot of these transfers at the moment. And I think that he would be someone that I would really get on board with. You can relate to him, and I think that's what's nice. And again, fits the profile of player that we're looking for perfectly. I would like a bit more experience. If you're asking me, I think you could get Osimhen and Delap. The only trouble with that is are you then putting Delap and Jackson's nose out of joint if you bring in an Osimhen? But I do think Chelsea do need some experience. I know we're enjoying the fact that we've won the Conference League, we finished fourth, but I feel as though at some point, adding a little bit of experience within the side will only bring all those youngsters up another level and bring them onto a plane where you've got winners in the side where you kind of go, that's not acceptable. Someone like Thiago Silva could just drag you up and say, that's not good enough. You need to be better. Or, what we've done, like Jackson, for example, getting sent off against Newcastle the other day. He needs someone in that dressing room. I'm sure Reece James did it, but someone in that dressing room to say, that's not good enough. You possibly cost this team the Champions League. At the worst possible moment, you've literally lost your head. And I think those things are discussed before games, after games, in training all week. So would I like some more experience? Yes. But for what Chelsea are trying to do right now, he is absolutely bang on the money for me. And I think Sesko is the other one that we're always sort of linked with. Arsenal are linked with him too. Gorkarez as well. He's another one. I sense that Chelsea could get two this season. I think Sesko is another Leipzig striker. We've had a couple of those and they've never quite panned out for us. So I think I'm a bit scarred by anybody coming from the Bundesliga. They've never been good for Chelsea. It's never worked out. And Sesko has got a few more goals, but I wouldn't say it's massively impressive. And when we signed Werner, I know he was banging goals in hand over fist over there, and he come to Chelsea and he looked like a fish out of water. He was okay at the beginning, but you started to see the real him. And we had Havertz has come, and obviously Nkunku has come, and nothing's really worked for us. So I think I would rather buy a player that's Premier League proven than look to France or Germany at the moment and stop with the experiments over there and say, right, we've got a player who's English, he's 30 million quid, again, which is basically free money. Chelsea are going to earn £60 million for basically turning up for the Club World Cup in the summer. And yes, they got the books to balance and other things too. But when you think of it like that, they could stand to win like over £100 million in the Club World Cup quite easily without even blinking. So I think it's exciting to be a Chelsea fan at the moment. We've got a good side as it is. We've got Esteval Willian coming into the side. Obviously, we've got Santos coming back from Strasbourg on loan. It's really, really exciting. I think if we can just get the right pieces in alongside those players, and obviously there will be a couple of outgoings too. Petrovic coming back, maybe Sanchez is going out. I'm sure they'll take a good look at Mike Penders in this period. I'm not sure when the players will come back. I presume they'll come back for the Club World Cup, so Penders may get a run out in that. We shall see. But I think goalkeeper's pretty sewn up. I don't see us spending big on a goalkeeper. So I think the money, I would certainly use it on a forward, if not two, and a centre half. And I think we would be fairly covered. Midfield looks really good. The wide players look really good. And I certainly expect to see one or two signings before the Club World Cup. And that is what has been seriously bandied about through people like David Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano. And they are often 99% of the time correct. So yeah, exciting times to be a Chelsea fan, and very much looking forward to seeing what we do in the next couple of weeks.
Well, final word from me, I guess. And God, Chelsea are moving quick, aren't they? In the space that we've been sending each other voice notes today, Chelsea have basically all but signed Delap when we record this. So the here we go from Fabrizio's out, Ornstein's named it, and it looks like, well, by the time people listen to this, he may already be a Chelsea player. And what makes it even more exciting is his debut will only be in a few weeks when we play in the World Club Cup. So yeah, not your normal having to wait till August, which is really exciting. And I mean, you can hear Joe and I are both pretty high on him before we knew he'd become a Chelsea player. I think there's a lot of upside. Obviously, not just the price, but everything we've talked about really. And there is something in nicking him off Man United that makes it all the sweeter. And we have stolen a few players from United over the years, going back to as long as Arjen Robben, Ginobili Mikel, Cesc Fabregas. I think they might have wanted Hazard as well. So yeah, we've got a pretty decent record in doing that. So hopefully he's the next in that long list. We will be continuing the pod over the summer. Obviously, we'll be reporting on our views on the World Club Cup. Lots of news on transfer window. I mean, we've talked about ingoings today. Joe mentioned a few of the outgoings. There's probably a list of at least 10, isn't there, that Chelsea must be looking to get out. So maybe we'll do another episode on that and give you our views. But yeah, hope you have enjoyed the pod this season. We obviously love doing it. It's been our first season. And yeah, we plan to continue doing many, many more. So get in touch with us at hello@1905podcast.com or on our Instagram, 1905podcast. We'd love to hear from you. If you'd like us to talk about anything in particular, then let us know. And yeah, enjoy that sweet feeling of winning a trophy again. We're back. We've won it all. Again. Those were the Chelsea notes for this week. If you enjoyed the podcast, do us a favour and share it with a fellow Blue. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a review wherever you're listening. Wherever you may be, stay carefree, and remember, every little thing's gonna be alright.